And we're going to do a valuation workshop in the next 3.5 hours or so, so we can get out in time for the next event, which I think has something to do with awards. So I'm going to kick this thing off, even though you guys are still munching on early exits and lunch. So this is a new valuation workshop that was developed last summer. It's been delivered about 8 or 9 times now, and I think you're going to enjoy it. I surely enjoy delivering it. Here's what we're going to be doing, and if you can't hear me, let me know, and I will put a mic on, but my suspicion is that you won't let me know, because you'll be able to hear me. We're going to look at these 3 valuation methods, and we're going to have an exercise after each, and then we're going to have a case study at the end where you'd work together at your tables to apply all 3 valuation methodologies to a single case, and then you let us know what answer you got. And I think you'll be surprised at the answers that are the variation in the responses between tables. But first, we're going to talk a bit about portfolio strategy. Those of us who have been talking about valuation, especially in angel deals, have been relating valuation to returns and portfolio strategy because it seems to be impossible to talk about one without the other, especially if you use the venture capital method as one of the methodologies for looking at deals. So let's start by looking at some of the returns data that I think you're already somewhat aware of. And prior to 07, we had none, and that made speculating on returns in angel investing a little bit difficult. Fortunately, Rob Wiltbank and colleagues have been hard at work for the last 4 years or so, or 5 years, and have now produced 2 reports. There's been a bit of other data that's available, but I think these 2 are very interesting. And you'll see here, and incidentally, I would encourage you to follow along in your workbooks, because the exercises that follow each of these sections are in your workbooks. As you probably already know, the U.S. angel study, which was a study of returns for angels in groups, represented the outcomes for about 600 angels who were investing in over 3,000 deals with a little over 1,100 exits. In the UK, about a third or so of that size, number of angels, number of deals, number of exits. The first thing that pops off the chart to me is the bottom line. Minus 1x means the investors did not get all of their capital back. They might have gotten some of their capital back, but they didn't get all of their capital back. And in both studies, you can see that half of angel investments did not return capital. Parenthetically, about 2/3 of those half returned 0, and 1/3 of that half returned some capital. The next thing that sort of jumps off the page at me is IRR. We've said for some time that we angels probably, because of the risk involved, deserve something in the neighborhood of 25% IRR. And you'll see that the UK study gave 22, the US study 27. Considering the number of angels and the number of deals that were involved, I consider those to be the same number. Let's say 25% IRR. If you look at ROI, 2.2 and 2.6x, so we're getting about 2.5 times our money back, cash on cash only, just looking at cash on cash. We know the returns are skewed. Since less than 10% of the deals are giving us virtually all of our upside. We already knew that, but this is validation of that. The part of this study, as it's reported, that is useless to us is this number right here. The average exit time, 4 years and 3.5 years. Go ahead, measure your portfolio after 3.5 years, and what are you going to get? You're going to get something that's underwater. Because as I will be repeating several times this afternoon, lemons rot faster than plums ripen. So it's going to take longer than 4 years on average for us to see a positive return on investment. We've got a little bit of data that I'm going to show you on that later as well. Just realize that this average time to exit is not particularly helpful when you're looking at an angel portfolio. I think this comes home to in spades to angel groups that are less than 5 years old and still looking for their first exit. How many of those do we have in the room?
Less than 5 or looking for your first exit?
Yeah, both. Well, let's say, looking for your first exit. 6 are looking for his first exit. And there you have it. This is, I think, an important piece of information also from this data. So we've learned that returns are skewed, that half of our investments are giving us virtually no return, and less than 10% are giving us virtually all of our upside. And there's 2 conclusions about portfolio strategy that we can draw pretty quickly from this kind of data, and it is the mantra of those of us who've been standing at the front of the room for some period of time. And that is, we need to invest only in deals that will scale to 15 or 20 or 30x. And number 2, we got to make lots of investments. We can't make 2 or 3 and hope for the best. And that says something also that's going to create problems for us as angels, and that is, how much follow-on investing do we do? I'm not going to address that specifically in this seminar today, but if we need to have a diversified portfolio and we need to put money in lots of different deals, and those damn entrepreneurs keep coming back for more money every time we fund them, we have to make follow-on decisions as to whether we're going to invest more in the same company or in more companies. And there's actually some data in the Wilbank study about that as well. So our good friend and colleague Luis Villalobos told us through a Monte Carlo simulation that he did about 3 or 4 years ago, that if we want to pretty much have a good assurance of a 25% per year IRR and 2.5 or 3 times our return of capital over, let's say, 5 to 10 years, that we could pretty much assure that with with 25 investments. That was sufficient diversification over our lifetime to assure that we could get the norm of the returns.